The HSR X Fate collab has been anticipated for 1 year now, and I would be lying to you if I looked that camera lens in the eyes and said I had no interest in seeing the final product and how it is received by the community. I want to share my thoughts on this with charitable cause, and as well, I want to be fair in my criticism. You know, I still remember it like yesterday when it was first announced, the excitement that arose in me as a Fate fan. In fact, my favorite characters are Saber and Archer. I don't know if you knew that, but I did mention it before. When it popped up on the screen, I saw the red hue on the lettering of the Fate version in particular, and then behind the lettering, that red hue world. And when you take into consideration the sci-fi space theme of HSR and how they present their new maps for you to explore in the form of planets, I think it was safe to say that you can extrapolate from that presentation in particular that we might have been getting a brand new planet, and then you consider the 1 year timeline, that brand new planet would have an enriched story, and it would have maybe 2 to 4 playable characters to present to you as well. Well, now that we have what we have today, I want to talk about all of this. Now, I've gathered a number of variables to present to you this conversation. I also have the sentiments of my community that I've garnered over the course of my tenure covering HSR. You might think I'm not worthy of covering it because I don't play anymore, but let's face it, boys, I was one of the largest creators in the community with 2 years of experience behind my belt, and I still average 100,000 views when I react to a trailer every now and then. I'm very well capable of giving a rational take on this. I don't want you guys thinking that this is a smear campaign and I'm only here to be negative. No, I want to make sure that in light of the hype and FOMO going on right now, the creators gassing it up, doing their job diligently, rightfully so, this is a grounded video giving you the real pros and cons of what I see before me. And that's pretty much the goal I have in mind. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, the first thing I want to comment on is the story. I found a full story playthrough on YouTube and I skipped through it, stopped at certain parts just to kind of get a gist of the overall presentation quality, the overarching concept of what they're trying to do here, and how many times they were using originally or freshly crafted assets versus reused ones. And I'm gonna be real, from a fair point, without any hate, shit looks ass. Let's explain why. Let's set aside the fact that they completely trampled upon the essence of what Fate is, a violent war over the Holy Grail where people do die and get completely obliterated. That has been dismissed with the Land of Dreams, Sweet Dream Penacony. No such thing as death. Any violence witnessed is nothing more than a harmless spectacle. I think that's an absolute joke, but it's actually not something that breaks the deal for me. In collabs, this kind of thing can happen where it's just like, I get that this is what's happening, but that's not really the point of the collab. It's kind of just to bring both worlds together and have a good time. I understand that, sure, but let's be real. Using Penacony as the world instead of concocting an entire Fate world to encapsulate the essence of what the Fate franchise is, there's no way you can't view that as anything other than poor effort and laziness. I mean, goddamn, you had a whole entire year to make this happen. And like I said, the red hue world behind the red hue lettering, I mean, that's a bit of a blue ball to not have a whole new world to represent these Fate characters. Now, putting that aside, the story presentation was something I expected to be good, especially because there were so many people praising the 2.4 patch with Finon. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that shit wasn't good. In fact, I don't even have to look. A lot of people were saying they enjoyed it. But when I look at this, basically, and you guys know my past with HSR and my biggest criticisms, it's how they present their story. And I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm going, this is the literal exact same HSR formula of story presentation. Set up a scene, 2 people yap back and forth, and nothing actually is being shown. That's what I see right here before me. And then I'm looking at Old Odie and this guy, who I believe is Scott, who's like this goofy NPC that's always existed in HSR for the longest of time. I actually like the guy, but why the fuck am I looking at these two instead of looking at, once again, crucial Fate characters that I would rather have the screen time of what they have? I understand the purpose of setting up a concept and introducing the Fate franchise through a dialogue of 2 NPCs. But the reality of it is, after a year of waiting, the hype and anticipation of Fate fans, they don't want to see these guys on the screen. They want to see Fate fucking characters. I want to see Fate characters. And so I'm looking at this and I'm just like jumping through and I'm just like, okay, This looks like typical HSR storytelling, bro. Once again, back of her head, boot heel yapping, going back and forth. I love these characters. They're probably saying something cool, but my God, is this a Fate collab or is this a HSR collab with Fate characters? I also did notice that the Fate characters simply had no voice lines in the English playthrough, which is truly unfortunate because their Japanese VAs are prevalent inside of the Japanese dub. Why didn't you just put the Japanese VA inside of the English playthrough? You know what I mean? Just, okay, so you couldn't get the English voice actors, maybe because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. Who the hell knows? Put the JP people inside of the English VA to like prevent the immersion from being less enjoyable. Now, you got people that were saying that it's coming out in 3.5. Brother, I don't give a fuck if it comes out 2 days later. They had a whole year to get this set up. You know what I mean? Like, that's not an excuse, man, nor should it be. But setting that aside, this was, oh, bro, this was the funniest thing I saw about this whole collab. I'm not gonna lie to you. So this is supposed to, and I did like keep up with just a little bit of it. This is supposed to be Britain, right? They're taking you back to Britain. I guess it's a representation of Saber's tidbit. Boys, this shit looked like they hit up a... I'm sorry. This shit looked like they hit up Genshin Impact. They said, hey, bro, let me borrow Mondstadt real quick. We're gonna use that shit as Britain. These motherfuckers took the Mondstadt assets, bro. Like, you can't even deny, bro. They said, yo, get shit. Let's get some of that Mondstadt shit. We're gonna make that Britain today, bro. Like, guys, come on, man. The one thing I will say, and this is me being charitable, it is possible, like, I'm just gonna let that play in the background. It is possible, fellas, that maybe the negotiations fell through with Type Moon and they were being a little bitch about their IP and they wouldn't let Hoyoverse borrow, or, you know, not borrow. They wouldn't let them cook with their IP because they were just too goddamn picky about it. And that, dude, that happens a lot in these type of situations. I'm being very charitable to Hoyo, because it's also possible that Hoyo didn't want to pay the money for the Fate collab that the Fate IP people were asking for. It's because they're a small indie company. You know, it's not like they're the top 15 most successful, lucrative private companies in the entirety of the world. Like, there's a number of things we could like try and concoct and hypothesize about why we're getting this shit for the Great Britain stuff and not some good Fate collab, like world building. Regardless, once again, I have to, and this might be like sounding repetitive to you guys, I have to take into consideration how much prep time went into this collab and the final product of what it's being presented in terms of a story. Also, I'm gonna let the community sentiments echo in terms of the dialogue that's actually being presented, because I told you I wasn't paying attention to any of it, but I heard that for the most part, a lot of people were saying they liked how they portrayed the personality of Saber and Archer, which is awesome to hear, right? That's something that you want to see as a Fate fan being represented accurately. So based off of what my feedback of this community said, that was done relatively well. But the things surrounding that, like, again, the world view, the world building, was done in a piss poor effort. I don't even have to get y'all's feedback. I can just look at what's happening here. One more thing I want to point out. Look at what you're looking at on the screen. Look at the quality of it, the presentation of how they're showing off the characters. Saber looks amazing right here. HSR's doing a great job in real time of what I'm showing you of how to present their dialogue, right? Look at these scene transitions. The quality has been increased. One of my biggest complaints of HSR, always, this is not consistent throughout the entirety of consuming their story. In fact, it's about to show it to you right now. Keep that quality in mind, and now look at what they're about to show you right here. I'm about to just fast forward just a little bit. Now look at the quality. It has decreased, it has diminished. They've went back to this same old bullshit that they show you that's a lower effort quality than what you were just looking at. If I go back over here too, you'll be able to see it again. Look at it, the quality has been lowered. I don't enjoy this. I'm sorry. It's always been a massive gripe of mine. That quality we just saw for Saber and the main protag should be the quality of the entirety of your dialogue consumption, as well as how consistent they're switching up the scenes in terms of the fluidity. Man, it's just not there. Like 80% of your time looking at these stories, and that's, once again, it's a problem for me, and I look at it as low effort. I also want to comment that I think Archer and what's his name look kind of cheeks right here. Like, if I pull up a picture of Archer, man, Bro, he don't look like the Archer from this right here. He just doesn't, right? He looks a little bit different. But I seen his gameplay, and his gameplay was so freaking god tier to me that it's okay. It's not a big deal to me. He might look kind of booty cheeks right here, but when you get inside of that action, this becomes irrelevant. And I'm going to talk about that later on in my overall assessment of this collab. But let's go ahead and move on to the sentiments of the community that I've garnered and what they think about all of this. So I put this post out. I said, give me your honest rating of the HSR X Fate collab down below as of now. Things to consider. This was my attempt at pretty much getting people who still play HSR to tell me their sentiments with good, tangible, descriptive feedback. I'm not looking for people who just say 8 out of 10 and nothing else. I'm not looking for people to say it sucked. I'm looking for people to actually put good thought provoke into their feedback. And I really enjoyed all the things I saw down here. And I think a lot of these people were being genuine within their sentiment. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. It's 101 comments, which that's a lot of comments on a freaking community post. Just so you know, 101 comments, I get that on 20,000 view videos as well. And generally those 101 comments, although the vocal minority, they could represent thousands of people's sentiment. And so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these guys. He said 7.5. As expected from a collab story, it was a short, fun, lighthearted plot that gathers characters from both medias in funny interactions and moments, plus using inside jokes from both communities, which was hilarious. I really value inside jokes, because it's a way for fans of either community to show off their knowledge of that IP. Oh, I get that. I understand that. When Archer shoots the bow across the sky and hits that mob, I know that's from episode, well, whatever episode it was. But yeah, that's cool, and it's actually important in terms to like nailing a collab. Archer and Saber characterizations were nail on point. They really gave them justice, and I was surprised from how deep they delved into Saber's character. Saber's gameplay is fine, but Archer's gameplay is sick as hell. Very fun, plus being free is just moi. Although they reused a lot of assets, which is such a lazy, cheap move considering they had a whole year to prepare. Like, come on, man, this isn't a monthly story. Also, the muted part was kind of dragged, although fun at first. They also could have done at least 2 events revolving around the collab, but it is what it is. So you can see this guy was quite fair in his analysis of his personal experience. The next guy, I hearted a couple of comments just to get people. This review is from someone who isn't a huge Fate fan. I've watched Fate Zero and Stay Night, thought they were pretty decent. A 5 would be a fair assessment for the collab. That's a 50 out of 100, brother. That is a failing grade. Story quality, nothing special. Storytelling is on par with the main story quests. A bunch of reused character models and NPC models. Story itself was nothing special either. It takes about 5 hours to play through the story quests, around 40 seconds to a minute of cutscenes and a minute of static images. That's exactly what my discontent was on the overview. Archer, definitely a top tier unit in MOC and APOC Shadow. Don't even ask about Pure Fiction. A bit restrictive on the teams. He's pretty tied to Sparkle because he needs hella skill points. I support this. I'll talk about this later. I strongly support this. My reasoning for it, I guarantee you, will be quite compelling. Very strong and simple to use character though. Animation wise, he is quite comparable to other characters Hoyo has released. Definitely below Finon and Caster's level for the animations. Me personally, I'm also okay with that. Finon and Castris are premium units they're selling you for a price tag. He's somebody they gave to you for free. I would say it's a compliment that he is below Finon and Castris. I would say that's a massive compliment because he's completely free, in my personal opinion. If he was like below all other characters in animations, it'd be dog shit. But based off what I saw, which we'll go over that later too, this shit is fire. Saber, a bit weaker than Archer for both MOC and APOC Shadow, but has decent presence in Pure Fiction. Team building wise, she needs energy regen characters, so Sunday, Ting Yun, Hua, completely fair. Also very simple to use and strong choice. Animation wise, I would say is quite average as well. I don't actually remember her animations. We'll have to rewatch them. Content density is quite terrible. You got the 2 new characters in the event and the story. The event has a pretty cool idea, but to me, it just feels like a slightly upgraded version of Simulated Universe. The rewards for the event are quite mid as well. I think you get 1,400 Stellar Jades, some credits, XP materials, a self-modeling resin, and 2 tracks of Destiny. Yeah, that pretty much seems like par for the course for HSR. So was it worth the 1-year wait for the collab? No, this just feels like something they could have banged out in a few months. And honestly, I think I agree with that. I agree with that overall sentiment. We won't read them all. I just kind of wanted to give you a rough draft of what people are thinking. To be completely honest, you can go to this post yourself. You'll see the majority of people are kind of feeling a 7 out of 10-ish, 6 out of 10-ish. Most people are going, it was cool, but these are the problems. Story was kind of ass. I loved Archer though, bro, sick. But everything else, these are pretty much the sentiments of the entirety of all these people. You'll see a lot of 6s and 7s. You'll see a few 8s. You'll see 6, 7, 7. A lot of people are pretty much in the realms of what I would view as closer to mid. 7 for me is a 70 out of 100. If I equate it to like grade school averages, that's like a C- or D+, barely passing grade. And I did put up here that my version of a 7 is relatively satisfied, but expected more. That is my personal grade of what I would give a 7 to any game. Now, with those sentiments in mind, I want to take a look at Archer's gameplay and give my own personal thoughts on it. I will say this is totally like, I'm in agreement with the one guy. This shit looks so ass, bro. Like, but you know what I noticed? This isn't consistent throughout the whole playthrough. He looks different in like different like portrayals of Archer. In fact, I just want to kind of like skip ahead a bit. Right here, he doesn't look the same, but then again, that's like a drip marketing, right? And then when we come over here to the actual gameplay footage of him, you don't get to see his face model, and it makes him look so much better. His face is like, it ruins everything. Right down here, he looks like Archer from Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Right here, he looks like him. But as soon as they zoom in on that face, it's like, oh shit. What the hell is that? You know what I mean? But his combat, I'm gonna be real, for me, it was like a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10. I really love how this looks, bro. Just him standing there, getting ready to create that freaking sword that he uses as a bow. I think that shit is so fire, and I think they nailed it. I think they absolutely nailed this. His face, once again, looks better right here, by the way. It doesn't look as shit as it did earlier. This is one of my favorite like animations of him. First of all, one of my favorite parts of Archer in the anime is when he shoots that bow across to Berserker. I think they fucking nailed this, bro. From them getting ready to garner this bow up, boom, and then it's red, it transforms into blue. Look at the angle. Shoots across the sky, blue into red explosion, shows him off right there. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. This isn't even the ult. I don't think they could have done a better job with Archer's animation right here. 9.5, I would have been fucking like drooling over this if I was playing the game. The other thing I noticed is that he's skill point greedy, which is completely fine with me because that makes him rely on Sparkle. Once again, I'll talk about that when I go to the tier list portion of my review. But this dude is being portrayed in a masterful way in terms of translating who he is as a person in Fate in combat sequence. Like this right here, I am the bone of my blade, unlimited blade work. Oh, like this shit is fire, bro. I do think the ult is not as good quality wise as the bow windup. As I'm looking at this, don't get me wrong, they're definitely encapsulating what Archer does, but it doesn't look as cool as his bow windup. It doesn't look as visually stunning. And maybe that's just because of he just kind of gathers all of his weapons like Gilgamesh and throws them at somebody. I like the world in this initial display. I think that looks beautiful. But something about right here looks cheap almost. It doesn't look as visually stunning. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fog. Maybe the fog isn't as high quality or dense as the visuals I saw from the bow charge up. Maybe it's the blades. The quality kind of diminished right here. But overall, I think it's like an 8.5. Still think it looks cool. I thought this was going to be it for Archer. I thought that was the extent of what they did with him. When they showed off the follow-up attack though, I was even more impressed. I was like, oh damn, they gave him a follow-up on top of those beautiful, stunning visuals. I do wish the follow-up was a representation of his burst step when he was fighting Lancer, when he fucking like disappeared behind him and immediately got to his Zidane arc of like the two dual blade daggers. He was like, listen, I'm an archer, but I get down with these daggers. I wish the follow-up was something like that. A bit more edgy, a bit more fucking flamboyant. But, you know, throwing 2 daggers at somebody, I think it's a way to cook as well. It's pretty cool. He does throw his daggers as well. Like, he'll throw that motherfucker from a distance. So I thought overall, the representation of Archer translated into HSR combat wise, from the way he stands there, I think it's a 9 minimum out of 10. I think they did a tremendous job. And the fact that he is T0 for now is all the more icing on the cake. Okay, now for Saber, I'm going to go ahead and touch briefly on the moves I know she has. That auto attack, it's all right. This here is probably my least favorite move. I think it just looks poor in quality. Something about it looks like almost 2D damn near, like it's graphics from the PS2 era. Like you could almost see the freaking pixels like frame by frame. Like, look at this, bro. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but something about it is very low quality. But everything else about Saber's kit looks amazing in my personal opinion. I wouldn't say it's as good as Archer's visually. I think Archer's like edges her out. At least his charge up on his bow is amazing. The Excalibur attack looks cool, almost like a Super Saiyan aura just transformed into an Excalibur blade visually. I think it looks pretty cool. I will say my standards are a bit high after seeing Fleur de Lis's version of the Excalibur blade. Just being completely honest, the impact frames sound crazy and everything. This looks good. This, I don't even know how the hell you get this. This is a whole new cinema, and this is way more cinema. And you can comment down below and let me know. This is a different version of the ult. Like, basically, I'm just going to start that over. It shows her off in a more cinematic fashion right here. That shit is fire. Then it like shows her from a lower angle. God damn, that looks fire. I like how that looks. I don't know why there's a different like variation of the ult, but that one looks much more cinematic. I just think they could have evolved upon this part with a bigger explosion, especially if you know Saber can deliver an Excalibur that like goes outside of the goddamn city almost. I think this is great. I would give this an 8.5. If they added one more explosion on top of it, kind of like they did with Archer, I would have raised it up like a 9.5, close to a 10. But overall, the most satisfying thing and the biggest expectation you have of playing Saber as a character is landing that Excalibur slash. Now, if those were the only two animations, I would actually give her like a 8. But I didn't know they had a whole nother animation, and it's like this charge attack. And now her Excalibur is showing. It's not invisible anymore. I appreciate that a lot. It would have made me mad if it was invisible the entire time. I love that they have an amplified version. It's now showing the Excalibur blade. This shit looks pretty cool. It's not blowing me away, but to be honest, I mean, what more do you want from Saber? She's a knight, right? She's not too damn flamboyant in her prowess. She gets shit popping. She's strong as hell. Look at that. Very high quality. It looks way better than that wind bullshit we saw earlier. Each one of these is visually stunning. You've got like Earth coming up. I think this is a great visual representation of who Saber is. And so overall, for Archer, I'm thinking a 9.5. For Saber, I'm thinking about an 8.75 to a 9. Maybe an 8.5. I don't know. I would be okay if somebody said they liked Saber and put it at a 9. I think they did good jobs in terms of gameplay visualization. In case you guys are wondering, Smack, what would have raised their gameplays to a 10 out of 10? For Archer, I would have preferred a domain expansion on his ult instead of that shit they just showed. Don't get me wrong, that looks cool too. But him entering the unlimited blade works as a domain expansion and amplifying his current abilities, or still doing kind of the thing he does where all the daggers come at you, but like maybe like multiple times just so people can really soak in his unlimited blade works. I'm not expecting the I am the bone of my blade big shield that he puts up because that's a defensive capability. And you can't realistically expect a game to have all the characters' abilities. That's a bit unreasonable. But I think that would have made it a 10 out of 10 for me. For Saber, amplify her ult with one more impact frame explosion, and I think that would have just done it for me. Let's be real, guys. Everybody just wants to do Excalibur with Saber, and maybe add in a combo because she can get it popping on this, you know, the nightly combos, pop, 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 instead of just like one slash. That would have raised her to a 10 out of 10 for me. Now, I briefly want to touch up on this tier list and the placements. Obviously, I kind of am forced to take pride when at face value here, and that's because I don't play the game anymore. Him being T0, and people are saying that he's T0 only if you have Sparkle. I think that's so fucking cool because for the first time ever, they have put the veteran player in front of the new player. Let's face it, every veteran player owns Sparkle, but no new players own Sparkle. I love this. I think if the new players bitching about this, cry yourself a river. It's finally being shown, the veteran player is getting some love here. All the people who own Sparkle and their Sparkle has just gotten power creeped for God knows how long can finally take her off the bench with a character they don't even have to spend money for, and they're going to perform well. I think that is a nuclear W, and that was the reason that I wanted to bring up to you guys when I said I'll talk about this later. And so I think that's cool. Now, I am curious, is this T0 value including the light cone? You guys can inform me about that down below. I don't know. But the fact that he is in front of Saber, and Saber's being promoted on a premium monetary level, is freaking, that's cool. And I think you guys celebrating that is awesome. For me, this doesn't shock me at all that he's in T0, because he's a newer unit. And given how these gacha companies operate, they like to present these things to you in a way that makes you think they have your best interest in mind. I think there's no denying this was just a walking W for veterans. But him being T0 when he first comes out, not that bit of a surprise to me. I do find it odd that he's a single target damage dealer, the highest too in the game. And he's meta, but the other single target units, let's find them. Dr. Ratio and Scylla are down here in T3. In my personal opinion, if a single target DPS is up in T0, then the other single target DPS should have bumped up to like T1. Right? I'm not expecting them in the land of power creep to rival him. I'm not. In fact, this just cements that there's always been a tweak straight up in power percentage and prowess performance. I'm sorry. There's always been a straight up power creep in those tweaks. This just cements that. But I do find it odd. How did he go to T0 like that? And then these two stay all the way in T3. That's pretty crazy to me. But Saber being in T0.5, I don't think this just outright cements that she's T0.5 either. In fact, I think in the land of HSR, give it a 12-week cycle, which is going to be 2 patches, and let's see where Saber is then. Because I feel like once they change up the dynamics of the structure, as they like to do in these MOC formats, you're probably going to see her come up and him go down. But I also think, and it's nuanced, I think it's cool that a free unit like him, if he goes down after 12 weeks in meta performance, I don't really care about that. You had your fun with Archer. After 12 weeks, you're not having as much fun with him anymore, right? After fucking 12 weeks, bro, you're probably like, oh yeah, I had my fun with the guy. It is what it is. He's T0.5 now. You know, it depends on your perspective. If you come from something like Wuthering Waves, then you're expecting every single character to pretty much be T0, and that's just impossible in a turn-based game, right? It makes more sense in a skill expression game like Wuwa. It's hard to nail that in a turn-based game though, where you can't control the skill expression. It's severely limited, if that makes sense. So I'm okay if 12 weeks later he bumps down. Now, the Herta going down to T0.5 is quite interesting. I didn't expect that. I also didn't expect Aglaya to still be in T0. She is well past the time period of being T0. The fact that she's still up there, either I would disagree with Pridewind if I was still playing, or I was proven wrong, and the very first character that I thought would have been power crept by now is still holding up their value. That's a possibility. However, the real cream of the crop characters that I said were going to power creep everyone have yet to come out. Finon was one of them. Casterus was one of them, but the real ones, like the enhanced March 7th and then the other girl, I think once they come out, people are going to get bumped down, and the land of the power creep will come back to show itself. We'll see what happens there. Tribby still being meta is pretty cool, but I do beg to consider, is this considering Tribby with E1? Pridewind likes to say that they only consider E0, S0, but then they'll contradict themselves with certain characters because you know damn well certain characters are placed because of their signature light column. But that's just my past experience with Pridewind. I still think they're a very reliable website. I do think Blade being buffed and Jing Liu being buffed, but still not scratching T0.5 after a year of being completely unplayable is a bit of a letdown. It really is. It's like, damn, that's unfortunate. And I do see the majority of units that are newer units, as usual, are meta as fuck, and then the older units are starting to go down in value. But ultimately speaking, I think I've seen a lot more healthiness in the atmosphere with the older units at least being somewhat usable as opposed to being down here in the back with Argenti. That's pretty much my assessment just from a bird's eye view. It's still the land of the power creep, but it's been improved like slightly. To wrap up everything, I think this collab in good faith is probably what my community was saying it was, somewhere between a 6 and 7. But if you ask me, I would give it a 5. And the reason I would give it a 5 is, once again, the 1 year threshold, the fact that they didn't create a whole world for the fake collab. I'm more so like disappointed in everything outside of the gameplay of the characters. I fully expected HSR to deliver on animations. That's what they do. I mean, guys, say what you will about the game, they do good animations and they deliver compelling cinematic gameplay experiences. What they fail in is depth of strategy, but what they excel in is the cinematic. Oh my God, that ability looks so cool. Let's see it again. I expected them to deliver on that. What they failed me in is story presentation. I didn't even finish it through, just what I saw. Story presentation, world building, and the integrity, I guess, of the fake collab from experiencing it from a game perspective. That for me is why I put it at like a true like failing grade. I think it's, if I'm gonna be charitable, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. If I'm not being charitable, 5 out of 10. But I would like to let my community rate that for me, since they actually experienced the patch in full, and they're sitting at a 7 out of 10. That's going to wrap up all of my thoughts on this. You guys comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I'll let you know right now, this is probably going to be an insanely controversial video. You're going to have people down there adding to the conversation in terms of like just thought provoking and good substance. But you're also going to have people down there just like completely pissed off that I just kept it a buck. I don't give a fuck. That's just what I do. And then you're going to have just like a shit show of just people arguing back and forth. Woo-wah will somehow be involved in this conversation in like unfair ways. It's just how it happens in the game. Welcome to the Gacha community, guys. Peace, love, and happiness. I'll catch you on the flip side.